In Mathura, in the Dhruva Ghat, we heard how Sri Narad Muni, how he instructed little Dhruva Mahārāj. And after Dhruva Mahārāj was instructed by the great sage Narada to go to Madhuvan, little Dhruva circumambulated Narad Muni, his spiritual master, and offered him his respectful obeisances. Then he started walking towards Madhuvan, which is always said to be imprinted with the lotus footprints of Lord Sri Krishna, and which is therefore especially extremely auspicious. Now, this Madhuvan that we are going to today, this actually is the first forest of the 12 forests of Vrindavan. So today, as Dhruva Mahārāj is proceeding from Dhruva Ghat in Mathura, he is walking towards Madhuvan. Let us try to walk alongside little Dhruva with Dhruva Mahārāj is walking with great determination. Imagine a 5-year-old boy all by himself. He is walking along this road and he is going towards Madhuvan to fulfill the instructions that he has received from his spiritual master Narad Muni. So let us walk along with little Dhruva on his way to Madhuvan and let us witness all of the austerities that little Dhruva performed and how the Lord, being pleased with all those austerities, appeared to him and fulfilled all of his desires.
So one thing to notice here is while we are walking towards Dhruvatila, Srila Radha Raman Maharaj pointed out to us that take a look at these trees. They are very, very tall trees, but their branches are downwards, as if they are all offering obeisances to the lotus feet of Sri Dhruva Mahārāj. And the same thing we saw during our Panchakrosh Vrindavan Parikrama as well, that the trees, their branches are going all the way down, offering obeisances to the Dham. Dhruva Mahārāj, he arrived at Madhuvan. He took his bath in the river Yamuna and observed fasting in the night with great care and attention. After that, as advised by the great sage Narada, he engaged himself in worshipping the Supreme Personality of Godhead. For the first month, Dhruva Mahārāj, he ate only fruits and berries every third day, only to keep his body and soul together. And in this way, he progressed his worship of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And then in the second month, he ate only every 6 days. And for his eatables, he took dry grass and leaves that we are looking at. And thus he continued his worship. Then in the third month, he drank only water every 9 days. And thus he remained completely in trance and worshiped the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is adored by selected verses.
So imagine this little 5-year-old boy, not even every day he is eating. And when he started drinking only water, he didn't even drink water every day. He drank water every 9 days. Means on the 9th day, he would drink a little bit of water. This is the austerity in the third month that little Dhruva was performing. Then in the fourth month, it is said that Dhruva Mahārāj became a complete master of the breathing exercise, and he just inhaled air only every 12th day. Imagine, he was breathing only once in 12 days. In this way, he became completely fixed in his position and worshipped the Supreme Personality of Godhead.
And by the 5th month, Maharaj Dhruva had controlled his breathing so perfectly that he was able to stand on his one leg, just as a column stands, without motion, and concentrate his mind fully on the Supreme Lord. And then he completely controlled his senses and their objects. And in this way, he fixed his mind without diversion to anything else except upon the form of the Supreme Personality of God. Then when Dhruva Mahārāj thus captured the Supreme Personality of Godhead in his heart, the three worlds began to tremble. And as Dhruva Mahārāj, he kept himself steadily standing on one leg. The pressure of his big toe pushed down half the earth, just as an elephant being carried on a boat rocks the boat left and right with every step. Then when Dhruva Mahārāj practically one in heaviness he became with Lord Vishnu, the total universal breathing became choked up, and all the great demigods and all the planetary systems, they felt so suffocated that they took the shelter of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The demigods, they approached the Supreme Lord and they said, "Dear Lord, you are our only refuge. We feel all the living entities to be suffocating. Their breathing process is choked up. We've never experienced such a thing. Since you are the ultimate shelter of the surrendered souls, we have therefore approached you. Please save us from this danger."
And then the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he said that, "My dear Devatas, please do not be perturbed by this. It is actually due to the severe austerity and the full determination of my little devotee, little Dhruva, that this is all happening. He's completely absorbed in thoughts of me, and he is, because of him, the entire universal breathing has stopped. So you can safely return to your abodes. I will go to this boy and I will fulfill all of his desires. Therefore, you all be pacified. Everything will become normal. I am going now to take care of little Dhruva." Meanwhile, Dhruva Mahārāj, he was, just completely absorbed in meditating on the form of Lord Narayan, because the description Narad Muni had given to Dhruva Mahārāj in those days, Dhruva Mahārāj or anyone, they were not so blessed like we are today. We have such great, vivid, description of the Lord, and Krishna Chaitanya, that we can see the form of the Lord drawn by beautiful artists, by the description that Srila Prabhupada has given, and his disciples have drawn this Supreme Lord so beautifully that we can manifestedly see the Lord in front of us. But in those days, Narad Muni had explained to Dhruva how the Supreme Lord looks. And just by the way Narada had described to Dhruva, Dhruva Mahārāj had picturized the Lord in his heart. And this we will hear in detail during our Japa tip section today. So Dhruva Mahārāj, he had captured the Lord in his heart, but suddenly he saw that it was interrupted because that, he had his eyes closed, he was standing on one leg, he was meditating. Suddenly the vision from his heart disappeared. The Lord was gone because the Lord externally manifested in front of Dhruva. And, since Dhruva was not able to see the Lord in his heart, he immediately opened his eyes. And as soon as Dhruva opened his eyes, lo and behold, whom did he see? He saw the Supreme Personality of Godhead personally present, just as he had been seeing the Supreme Lord in his heart.
So when Dhruva Mahārāj saw his Lord right in front of him, he was greatly agitated. He offered an obeisances and respect. He fell flat before him like a rod and became absorbed in the love of Godhead.
Haribo.
Now, Dhruva Mahārāj, he was in ecstasy. He looked upon the Lord as if he were drinking the Lord with his eyes. He was kissing the lotus feet of the Lord with his mouth, and as if he was embracing the Lord with his arms. But all of this he was doing manasa, in his mind. Although Dhruva Mahārāj was a small boy, he wanted to offer prayers to the Supreme Personality of Godhead in a suitable language. But he was inexperienced and totally ecstatic in seeing the Lord. So he could not. So the Supreme Personality of Godhead could understand Dhruva Mahārāj's awkward position. And out of his causeless mercy, he touched the conch shell to the forehead of Dhruva Mahārāj, who stood before him with folded hands. And at that very moment, as soon as the Lord touched the conch shell, Dhruva Mahārāj became perfectly aware of the Vedic conclusion and understood the absolute truths automatically, and his relationship with all the living entities. And in accordance with the line of the devotional service to the Supreme Lord, little Dhruva, he offered his beautiful, beautiful prayers. Dhruva Mahārāj said, "My dear Lord, you are all powerful. After entering into me, within me, you have enlivened me with all my sleeping senses, my hands, my legs, my ears, my touch sensation, my life force, and especially my power of speech. Let me offer my respectful obeisance unto you." And so the Supreme Personality of Godhead said, "My dear Dhruva, son of the king, you have executed pious vows, and I also know the desire within your heart. Although your desire is very ambitious and very, very difficult to fulfill, I shall favor you with this fulfillment. All good fortune to you." And then he continued, "My dear Dhruva, I shall award you the glowing planet known as the pole star, which will continue to exist even after the dissolution of the end of the millennium. And no one has ruled this planet, which is surrounded by all the solar systems, the planets and the stars, and keeping the pole star to their right, all the stars inhabited by the great sages, the Sapta Rishis, they circumambulate this planet, which continues to exist even after dissolution of all the others."
So then Lord Vishnu continued to say that after your father, he gives up his kingdom and he awards you his kingdom. He will go into the forest. He'll give you his kingdom. I bless you that you will rule continuously the entire world, not for 1 year, 2 years, but for 36,000 years. And all your senses will be continuing to stay as strong as they are now. And you will never become old. This is the benediction that Lord Vishnu gave to Dhruva, that he will always remain youthful. And the Supreme Personality of Godhead continued, it was not over yet. The Lord said, "My dear Dhruva, after your material life in this body," meaning that after you've ruled your father's kingdom for 36,000 years, you will then go to my planet, which is always offered obeisances by the residents of the other planetary systems. And it is situated above the planets of the Shapta Rishis, the 7 Rishis. And having gone there, you will never have to come back again to this material world. So saying this, giving this beautiful benediction, the Lord embraced Dhruva Mahārāj, and then he finally disappeared. So in this way, the Lord fulfilled the desire of Dhruva Mahārāj. And when Dhruva Mahārāj, having achieved the purpose for which he had come to the forest, when he was returning back from the forest, when he was coming back to his father's home, Dhruva Mahārāj was thinking to himself that, to endeavor to be situated at the shade of the lotus feet of the Lord is not an ordinary task at all. But within just 6 months, I achieved that result, which even yogis and rishis for millions and millions of births, they are not able to achieve. I had darshan, direct vision of the Lord in front of me. The Lord blessed me in just 6 months. But what did I ask the Lord? I just asked the Lord for a materially high position. Alas, alas. Dhruva Maharaj was just contemplating, oh, what did I do? Look at me. I am so unfortunate. I approached the lotus feet of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is capable of cutting the chain of repeated birth and death, but still, I actually prayed to him for things which are perishable, for mundane things. This is the humility of a wonderful devotee as little Dhruva. Dhruva Mahārāj, he actually, if we see in the entire conversation between Dhruva Mahārāj and of Lord Vishnu, Dhruva Mahārāj actually never opened his mouth. Although the purpose for him doing all this austerity was to get a position higher than his father's. He started with that determination that I want to get something higher than my father's. But when Lord Vishnu came, he actually did not ask. Dhruva Mahārāj did not say that give me a position higher than my father's. But the Supreme Lord, he knows the heart of Dhruva. So he not only fulfilled that desire of Dhruva Mahārāj, but gave him much, much more than that. Dhruva Mahārāj was blessed with pure devotion to the Lord, to be elevated to the Lord's own eternal abode. So Lord Chaitanya, in Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, in Madhya Leela, in chapter 22, text 42, he describes the condition of Sri Dhruva Mahārāj at this particular junction in this way. Sthanabhilashita tapasi sthitoham tvam praptavan deva muni draguhyam kacham vichalvam apidivya ratnam swamin kritarthosmi varam nayache.
So when he was being blessed by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Dhruva Mahārāj said, "Oh my Lord, because I was seeking an opulent material position, I was performing severe types of penance and austerity. Now I've gotten you, who are so very difficult for the great demigod, saintly person, and kings to attain. I was searching after a piece of glass, but instead I have found a most valuable jewel. Therefore, I am satisfied completely that I do not wish to ask for any other benediction from you."
Jai, 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 Shri Dhruva Mahārāj ki Jai.
So with this prayer, let us take some darshan of the deities here at Dhruva Tila. Lord Narayan here in this deity, we can see he is in the center, and Narad Muni on one side and Dhruva Mahārāj on the other side. And from here, we continue to walk through the forest and reach to our next destination. And this place that we see here, while we are walking to the next destination, we will see the forest, the Tapo Bhumi, the forest where Dhruva Mahārāj performed his austerities right here. And during the Vrajamandal Parikrama, when I, out of my curiosity, entered into this forest, it was so serene. I never felt this kind of serenity before, as I felt just looking at the forest and entering it inside. And after some time, we had to leave because I had to go along with the parikrama, but that experience is still resonating within me. And it's such a wonderful, beautiful experience. By the tapasya of Dhruva Mahārāj, this place has such spiritual, serene vibrations.
Hari Hari Bol. Whenever Prabhu tells me this, I literally have goosebumps all over. So this is so true. And I literally saw, because we were there and we were waiting for Prabhu to come. And he just came running and he said, "Oh, this place is just really something different. This place is indeed, Dhruva Mahārāj is still residing here eternally. Dhruva Mahārāj is Tapabhumi. Jai Dhruva Tila ki Jai. Shri Dhruva Mahārāj ki Jai. So in the same way that Dhruva Mahārāj was able to get darshan of Lord Vishnu and he was able to ask for no mundane benediction at all. So in the same way, oh, this wonderful tapobhumi of Dhruva Mahārāj, please bless us so that we may also never ask for anything mundane to the Supreme Lord. And may we only ask for the devotional service of the Supreme Personality of Godhead and to be able to please Srila Prabhupada and our Guru Vargas. Jai Shri Dhruva Mahārāj ki Jai.